Welcome back. Still here with Emerald Coast Hospice this morning here on the beautiful campuses of Florida Panhandle Technical College. Here now with Amanda Harkrider. She accompanied Margot Lamb this morning to talk about Emerald Coast Hospice. Amanda, you currently are working in the hospice profession for a hospice provision company. You're doing it for a paycheck and obviously out of love as well. But I also know that for many years you were a volunteer as a hospice provider. So you can't fake that. You can't make believe but for a very short period of time, or you get burnt out on it. And I imagine we can talk about that in a little bit.
Right.
But as a person involved from the heart in hospice, either from the paycheck side or from the volunteerism side, what are you getting out of it? What's the best part of it for you?
The best part of it for me, through working with Emerald Coast Hospice, has been the opportunity for me to go inside patients' homes or meet with them at the bedside if they're in the hospital or in the nursing home, and actually speak with them about our services. And patients will open up to you, and their families will open up to you and talk to you about what they're going through, what their wishes are, what their needs are. And having the opportunity for them to be very personal with me and share some of their stories. I spend a lot of time with patients, and a lot of times some of our patients and their families, they just want to talk, and I'm there to listen to them, and I take that as a privilege that they're allowing me that time and sharing those personal details with me about their life and about what their wishes are from this point forward.
Yeah, and that sort of opens up what I was going to speak about next, and that is that as a volunteer, as a professional, either way, you are privy to a very sacred, very private part of someone's life. It could be argued that the last 10 minutes of your life are no different from the first 90 years of your life insofar as your personal space. Do you find that people, and consequently their families that are surrounding them, who are not going through that death and dying process, do you see them change? There's got to be some kind of especially as they relate to you, and you mentioned that they kind of open up. I would expect that that's kind of a sign of some of that. Can you share some of that with us?
Whenever I go in to meet with a family or a patient or a caregiver, it's usually a very serious conversation. One of my goals when I go in to meet with a patient is to make sure they understand that I'm there and that I'm very sincere about what I'm there for, but to also, in some ways, make them comfortable and lighten their mood just a little bit, help them understand that not everything about hospice is about death. Our priority is to make the days that our patients have left quality days, quality time. So we're about life and we're about living. It's not all about death. Just because you elect the hospice benefit doesn't necessarily mean you're going to die. So whenever I have the opportunity to speak with someone, I always make sure that we talk about that and that we understand that hospice is not going to bring death. The underlying condition, the reason that you may elect hospice, that's the reason that will cause death. So I try to ease fears, help people understand that we're there to help them, support them, provide them with a service that's going to be a benefit to them, and that there's no need for them to be worried or scared or anything like that. So that's a good portion of my conversation with them, especially in the initial process.
One thing that we've found, we had the opportunity to work with a client in the nursing home industry. And we found that nursing homes are not what they were 30, 40 years ago. Again, those were almost places people went to die, or because the family couldn't take care of them, and they were basically neglected. They were fed, and that was about it. Those places, now that the baby boomers are retiring and are requiring, in some cases, that extended health care, they're asking to go deep sea fishing, and they're being taken on trips to Washington, D.C., and they're doing all of these activities. So I would imagine that is sort of pervasive within the entire health provision industry, is that we are trying to give them more life towards the end of their days. And it sounds like that is what hospice is trying to do. The reason for my question is, do you just work with that patient in the setting in which you find themselves, in that hospital bed or in their home? Or is there opportunity within your hospice organization for you to have time with those people outside of the home in those trip or those day trip type situations?
I absolutely understand what you're asking, and part of what we do for our families and our patients is we have social workers that go in as a part of their plan of care if they so wish, and we discuss with them what some of their wishes are. We have had situations in the past where a patient may have a hobby that they love. I know of one story where a patient loved refurbishing old cars, old trucks, and that was one of his last wishes. Was he had a older vehicle in his yard that he wanted to refurbish, and we helped him along the way, and we were able to help him get that done to meet one of those last wishes.
I know that within the last 2 or 3 years here on the campus of Florida Panhandle Technical College, the staff here actually worked with Emerald Coast Hospice to refurbish a truck. Is that the truck you're referring to?
Probably so.
Okay, it was interesting because the different departments here, electrical and auto body and welding and even some of the other programs, got involved and actually made that work happen.
Right.
That gentleman is still around.
Right.
That's been several years.
Right.
And so he might be one of those 10%.
That's exactly right. 1 in every 10 admissions will either be discharged from hospice or come off hospice services. So not all of our people that we service, does their time with us end in death. Some actually do come off service.
And that's a success story in itself, because I would imagine that had they not received that hospice care, they would not have had the supervision to maybe make sure that their medicines were regulated a little more closely, or that they got the exercise they needed. And all of those other factors that go into the fact that they can be discharged from hospice. In the perfect world, that's the best outcome. If somebody wants to find out more about Emerald Coast Hospice, would you direct them to the website, or what would be the best course of action?
If anyone has any questions at all, you can call our office here in Chipley. The number is 850-638-8787. My direct work cell phone number is 850-209-5981. There's always someone there ready and willing to answer your questions. Like I said, we're located on South Boulevard in the old Chipley Drug Store. A lot of people are familiar with the old Chipley Drugs, and when I mention that, they automatically know where I'm talking about. You can also just come in, and we'll be happy to sit down and talk with you at any time. Exactly.
Thanks again for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Here right now with Amanda Harkrider from Emerald Coast Hospice, talking about something which obviously we would all love not to have to talk about, but obviously, as you've heard over the last 20 or 30 minutes, something of which you should be aware. If you'd like to have more information about how to become a volunteer, or maybe how you or your loved one may take advantage of some of these hospice services, those phone numbers are on the phone right now. Don't miss the opportunity to find out more about what's happening right here in the real Florida by watching our show. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, or if there's something you'd like to know more about, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Go to the website, realfloridamagazine.org. We'll be right back.